You're watching the JoyNews channel. This is The Pulse coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. We are live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. I am blessed Sogah. And coming up this afternoon on The Pulse, minority in Parliament mounts pressure on government to cushion Ghanaians in the wake of the escalating fuel prices, as they are calling on government to implement some subsidies. We'll hear from the minority side of the House as to what they feel could be done to improve the situation.
Government is making so much money from our petroleum resources. I therefore call on President Akufo-Addo and the outgoing Minister of Finance that they should do something about this price increment.
There's more from the minority shortly. In our No to Galamsey campaign this afternoon, we'll tell you how some communities situated downstream of the highly polluted Ofin and Pra rivers are feeling the negative impact of illegal mining.
My trip.
So in this package, what happened to President Akufo-Addo's vision to make Accra clean by 2020? We have more in today's edition of the JoyNews Tracker. It's all coming up here on the Pulse, brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. Don't forget that we're streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook. It's at JoyNews on TV. I'm blessed Sogah. Welcome to the show. We'll be back with details. And this afternoon, we start off from Parliament. The minority there is mounting pressure on President Akufo-Addo's government to cushion Ghanaians in the face of escalating fuel prices. Diesel is selling for more than 23 cedis, while petrol is hovering around 18 Ghana cedis. Speaking to the press, minority spokesperson on energy, John Jinapo, indicated that government has been making supernormal profits from the rising prices of crude on the international market and must use that to cushion Ghanaians.
Fuel that was selling at 6.5 CD per litre has now increased by 300% in less than 1 year. The price of fuel at the pump has increased by more than 300%. Indeed, today, fuel is more costly than even the minimum wage. I've never witnessed that in my life. Today, as we speak, a gallon of diesel sells at about 105 Ghana cedi. This government is making so much money from the Ukraine-Russian war. In the 2022 budget, government projected that it will receive a total amount of about 6 billion for the whole of 2022. That is what was projected in the budget. Today, as we speak, from the PIAC report, in less than 3 months, and I mean just 1 quarter, government has received over 8 billion cedis from our petroleum resources. So in 3 months, government has received more than it projected for the whole year. So government is making supernormal profit. In fact, even the price stabilization and recovery levy, which is supposed to subsidize fuel, government projected that in the first 2 quarters, it will receive 269 million. As we speak, from the Ministry of Finance's own record, government has received about 800 million. And so this notion that government is not making revenue is a fallacy. It's a complete falsehood. Government is making so much money from our petroleum resources. I therefore call on President Akufo-Addo and the outgoing Minister of Finance that they should do something about this price increment. In these difficult moments, if it means that government has to use part of our petroleum resources to subsidize fuel, let them do that. Moreover, there's a price stabilization and recovery levy. It is there to subsidize fuel.
Exactly.
It has accumulated a lot of money, and they should apply that money. We are saying that the government can apply these supernormal profits to cushion the ordinary consumer. That's what we are saying. And we've demonstrated to you that government is getting more than it required even in the first quarter. We've demonstrated to you that the price stabilization levy, instead of the 260 million they've gotten about 800 million. We are also adding to the call of President Mahama that the Tema Oil Refinery, as a matter of urgency, with immediate effect, should process Ghana's domestic crude. That can give us about 45,000 barrels of processed crude every day. That will put a less of a burden on the need for forex. This is not rocket science. This is something we attempted doing by giving Tema Oil Refinery 2 million barrels of oil from the 10 fields under President Mahama. This government took over and sold that barrels of oil. And so something can be done. The president says he's going to look for cheaper oil. From where? From APAM. And he did not even give us timelines. These wishful thinkings would not solve the problem. The only thing that will solve it is a practical way, and we have enumerated steps that the president can take in order to address the challenge that we are going through.
Let me bring in now former ranking on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, Adam Mutawakilu, who's joining the conversation this afternoon. Thank you so much, Honourable, for your time. Just before I bring you into the conversation, I want to first of all check out what's the latest in Parliament. Kweku Santi is our parliamentary correspondent. Kweku, I mean, first of all, have we had any response from the majority side? Because we're equally learning that they've prepared a response to the minority.
Indeed, that was the expectation that they were going to respond. It's past 3 p.m. now. They haven't done so yet. Indeed, in confidence, some of the MPs on the majority side who are on the Mines and Energy Committee have been telling me that a number of the issues that John Jinapor raised in his press conference were falsehood, and that government was not just sitting aloof, it was doing what it could to try and cushion Ghanaians. And so we expected that they were coming to put this on record. But as of now, they haven't done so yet. But what they are telling us is that government is taking some steps. Just like you had the John Jinapor say that the president not only failed to give timelines, he also failed to give the sources that they will be getting these cheap petroleum products from. And they want government to give some clear indications about that. And if you come to the House itself, MPs are also worried generally because fuel prices going up is affecting them. Unlike their colleague ministers, they have to buy their own fuel. And the kind of vehicles they use, the kind of gazons that the fuel is consuming. They are very much concerned about this, and they also want government to do something. Just that the majority's concerns and their initial idea that John Jinapor peddles some falsehood has not come yet.
This may not be official, but what are some of the concerns of the majority side of the House?
Indeed, so they are just as they've been laying out, they think that although government have been making some windfall from the escalating prices on the international market, some of these have already been budgeted for other expenditure, and then government cannot just take that out and say they are going to cushion Ghanaians with that. They are also talking about the deregulated market and saying that although government is a significant player in the market, government just cannot wake up one morning and decide that they are going to set the prices at certain levels. And so the idea about cushioning, the idea about subsidies are something that is just outmoded. But then the presidency, the government itself, be coming out with a comprehensive idea in terms of how they can cushion Ghanaians with this soaring and escalating prices.
A lot has happened in the last hour. At least we are hearing from the regulator, the National Petroleum Authority. There are some reviews going on in terms of the fuel margin. That may not affect consumers, but of course it's got to do with industry as well. How's the minority taking this? Knowing that, for instance, the RSF will be reviewed.
Indeed, only last week, that statement from the NPA came in. I put that question directly to Honorable John Jinapor. He says that will completely not affect the ordinary consumer. There's absolutely nothing that will happen to them at the pumps. They will not go to the pumps, and because of this review of this subsidy, whatever it is, will not affect them in terms of the fuel they get. And they want more Ghanaians to join them in piling up the pressure on government to be able to do something. They say that this fuel prices is crippling, and it's going to cripple businesses. There are a lot of businesses that depend on fuel to be able to do their businesses. And with these amount of prices going up like this, they cannot cope. And so they need the buying of all Ghanaians to be able to pile the pressure on government, to turn the heat on President Akufo-Addo and Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, as well as the Energy Minister, Napo, to be able to take some considerable action to be able to bring some relief to the ordinary consumer.
All right, then. I'm grateful for your time. Kukwa Santi, our parliamentary correspondent there. Let's bring in former ranking on the Mines and Energy Committee, Adam Mutawakilo, who's joining us, former member of parliament for Damongo as well. Thank you, sir, for your time. It's refreshing to hear from you, except that we're in a crisis. That's what the president says. But he says that he's on the lookout for cheaper or a cheaper source of energy, if we could put it that way. Where do you suspect the president may be heading to?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon to our cherished viewers. The statement from the president is quite vague, and I support the call of the minority. Why is it vague? First, there's no cheap source of supply. You can have a strategic supplier who ensure you reliability of supply, but it can never be cheap. Two, we all know that the petroleum prices is not based on international crude oil prices alone. The taxes, levies, and margins that is imposed by government and the OMCs and BDCs count, and foreign exchange losses, that means the depreciation of the cedi, also count to the petroleum oil prices. So tackling only the supply side is not enough and not adequate. As you can witness, the recent increment in petroleum prices at the pump is not as a result of international oil prices or shortage in supply. It's purely as a result of the continuous depreciation of the cedi, because we buy the petroleum product in dollars, sell it in cedis, and convert it back to dollars to be able to import. And if that is not tackled, it could lead to shortage in supply, because the suppliers would not like to lose their investment by charging a price in which the depreciation of the cedi will affect their investment. So reliable, cheap, I have a problem with saying cheap supply. No, you can have a reliable supply. But if the cedi is stabilized, definitely for supply won't have any problem.
But then here we are, and of course, minority believes that one of the ways to deal with it is to go to, for instance, store and start the process of revamping it so we can deal with domestic crude. But will domestic crude suffice? I guess that's the bigger question there.
One of the major things we can do is import substitution. That means producing locally, and that comes to talk. If we produce our own oil, such as crude, and we have a refinery, the best way to do is to revamp it and ensure that it works efficiently. But immediate step is one, to tackle the taxes and tariff levies on our petroleum price delta. I will call for the removal of the special petroleum tax, which has outlived its usefulness, and also the petroleum recovery and stabilization levy must also be used to cushion. Then you look at the upstream. While the downstream, there are increase in prices in the international world market. In terms of exports, we are making windfall. And when we say windfall, this amount that has not been budgeted for. Because if the government budgeted 6.6 billion Ghana is for the whole year, and within the first half of the year, they have made 8.7 billion. That means they've been able to cover whatever has been captured in the budget. And there is an excess of 2.1 billion that has not been budgeted for in the budget. It becomes a windfall.
Yeah, but will that be a prudent use of resources, knowing that government has a tight fiscal space? You agree that we're in a crisis, so government is in search of liquidity.
Government, at the same time, must be aware that the center of the economy is the people. Any government that do not care about the people and talking about the economy and what have you is not making any meaningful decision. The center is the economy, and it has its own economics. Increase in petrol, back in my place, when you go to Damango constituency, most people who used to use motorbike to go to farm are considering other alternatives. And we know time is important in terms of productivity. So if government is only interested in fiscal space and not mind about the people and how petroleum prices go up, don't be surprised by the end of the year or early next year, productivity will decline significantly, which will in turn affect whatever government is doing. So it has a multiplier effect. Petroleum price has a multiplier effect. And therefore, reducing petroleum prices is to stimulate productivity. And productivity will lead to higher GDP and revenue to the country. So they shouldn't look at it as if they are in isolation. They are not in isolation.
And I just want to go back and pick up on the assurances that we're getting from the president that there will be a cheaper source of fuel. Are you ruling out the possibility entirely?
There can be strategic and reliable supply of fuel, not cheaper fuel. I don't know where he's talking about cheaper fuel, because he didn't detail out, and I don't buy to it that there will be cheaper source of fuel. No.
You're not sure we can get that from anywhere at all in the world?
No. I don't think so. What he should be looking at is those factors that are within his control, and that is managing the city to ensure that it's stable. If the city had been stable, I don't think we'll be experiencing this incremental price. To ensuring that some of the taxes in the petroleum price build-up are removed. And thirdly, ensuring that he compensates Ghana with a windfall from the upstream. And then we can make a way. But just say you get a cheap supply of petroleum product, I don't think it is workable.
And Honorable, which outlook are you working with now? Because I'm interested in that. A lot of Ghanaians are also interested in knowing what the trends may be in the coming days. Already, transport unions are beginning to ask for a further surge in transport services in terms of the cost. So where are we headed?
First and foremost, I think MPA has lost its mandate by making a statement that OMCs can increase petroleum prices. We are not in total deregulation. What we are in is either what we call partial deregulation or price modulation, which means that MPA is the one responsible to ensure that there is a ceiling within which the OMCs cannot go beyond in terms of price. But if it has thrown its hands in the air and saying that they can increase prices, then it's quite unfortunate they've lost their mandate. And I'll call on the CEO of NPA to sit up and perform its role of price modulation. Going forward, if you look at the trends, the cocoa syndicated loan has come to stabilize the city, but it will be here for a while. By 15th November onwards, I won't be surprised the city will start serious depreciation again. And once the World Bank, the IMF, the government has no agreement with the IMF, then we should expect petroleum price increment.
And then some Ghanaians are beginning to adjust, of course, trying as much as possible to find alternatives. One of them, and part of the call, has been for organizations to adopt the work-from-home approach. You've also heard some other policy proposals. What should the average citizen be considering now, in your view?
Yeah, from where we are heading to, there is a constraint on individual budgets. Not only the fuel prices, the economy is just hard, and individually people will start to adjust. In terms of organizations and industries, I think COVID has taught us that not necessarily being physical at a job will always get a job done. Zoom has come to stay. Those days it would have been difficult for somebody to view me in this contributing to national development. But people must adapt and adjust. It is real. Our purchasing power is dropping every day. And our errands should reduce, even though there are some of them, if you don't physically go, like if you are a farmer and you have to go to the farm to do your work, you cannot stay in the house to do. But as much as possible, people should prioritize their movement and errand in a bid to make some savings, and also adjust to their habits, because most people soon, I can predict next year, food inflation will be above 200. We don't take time. So adjustment now for the future is very critical. And I'll urge Ghanaians to consider that in their plans for the future. But the president must sit up, hold the bull by the horn, and act.
So let's wrap up with the concerns of the transport unions. How do you expect that government should be attempting to deal with this matter? I recall on Sunday on the probe here on the JoyNews channel, the union gave indications that the reason for which the 19% was implemented was because the president had given assurances that fuel prices would not go up once the negotiations were done. However, after the 19% increment, they're having to deal with a further surge in the fuel prices. So they're coming hard, and they will be making that statement once more for transport fares to go up further. How do we find a very soft way out of this? Because mind you, there's the consumer out there, the average citizen out there, and also government is looking at things from a different side.
Yeah, first and foremost, I don't know how the president is telling them that fuel prices will not go up and they just swallow it like that. There have been several statements that have been made by President Nana Akufo-Addo and they never came to fruition. Two, by telling you that fuel prices will not go up, he didn't back it with any practical steps that he would use to make that. But you realize that when you come to the transport industry, it's not only fuel, also cost of repairs, spare parts. Because currently we have serious challenge with the city depreciation that is translating, and other activities of government in terms of deficit financing that has translated to high inflation. So cost of spare parts has also gone high, and cost of fuel going up. So their call is in the right direction, looking at the trend that is happening. But as I indicated, the president has the power to take certain decisions to cushion them, and that is what I have outlined. Very, very important.
But they will still make that demand for the increment.
I think that if the president today says that he is removing the special petroleum tax from the price build-up, and as matter of agency, he's taking, let's say, $100 million to cushion petroleum prices for a given period, I don't think they will be talking about increasing prices.
I take your final words on this whole conversation on fuel prices.
Yeah, I think we are currently on a free fall. The city and the government in action over the period. I expect petroleum prices to still go up, and the president needs to take concrete and steps to ensure that, even in the US and UK, they are implementing windfall tax on multinationals that are operating, oil companies that are operating, to be able to cushion consumers. US and UK, how much Ghana? We need to take that step first. So I want to urge the president to come back and give assurance of how he will cushion Ghanaians in respect to this current trend of fuel increment every day.
And we're grateful for your time here on The Pulse. That's former MP for Damongo and also former ranking on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, Adam Mutawakilu. Still talking about the president, in 2017, he had the vision to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa by the year 2020. That vision changed to the end of 2024 when Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapa addressed the media in 2019, 6 weeks into the president's promise to make Accra the cleanest city. The coalition of NGOs in water and sanitation, CONIWAS, is not impressed with work done so far. Jojo Kobina and Efua Isiama have more in this edition of the JoyNews Tracker.
By the end of the 4 years of my term in office as president, Accra will be the cleanest city in Africa.
It was a promise that gave the country hope. To sanitation watchers, it was a right signal to residents to keep their environment clean. For many years, the city of Accra has been infamous for its filth. Streets, markets and drains are adorned with filth. The bad sanitation in the city is a major contributor to perennial flooding that cost the lives of many. To show greater commitment and reverse this worrying trend, President Akufo-Addo launched a national sanitation campaign and laid out a plan to attain the promise to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa.
This comprehensive program will include the establishment of a National Sanitation Authority and the establishment of a dedicated sanitation fund to help make our nation clean. Successive Ghanaian governments have tried to reverse this trend and inculcate a habit of greater discipline in the care of our surroundings. It has not succeeded. My government intends to make a fresh start.
But along the line, the story changed.
The president actually meant it when he made the promise, and you could see the genuineness of it. But he lacked the backing of his ministers, who was speaking one thing when the president was speaking another thing. The ministry officially started shifting statements that, oh, the president didn't mean the first term. The president actually meant his tenure in office. And he also lacked the cooperation of his Minister of Finance to actually put in the budget that should go with the promise.
In 2019, Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapa, realizing that the promise could not be achieved, extended the deadline to 2024.
Inshallah, the president will go for 2 terms, and at the end, Accra would have been, and we are on course. God is in control, and the battle is still the Lord's. And to tell you that His Excellency the President is so serious with this call to all of us to make Accra the cleanest city.
6 years down the line, the zeal to clean up Accra has waned. A council member of the coalition of NGOs in water and sanitation, Patrick Apoya, is disappointed.
It was almost as if the launching of the national sanitation campaign was to announce the end of the desire or the willingness of the government to pursue the clean city agenda.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate government's performance in terms of the promise to make Accra the cleanest city in
Africa? I'll give 1. First and foremost, the preparatory agenda that should have put us on track to pursue it was never put in place. That's number 1. Government will tell you they establish marshals, they what, but it's all talk. There's nothing on the ground.
Filth is threatening to swallow residents of Choko, located in southwestern part of Accra. The community is infamous for its mark-covered coast. Heaps of refuse border the coastline, completely fused with the sand, spilling over onto the surface of murky water that abuses the sight and smell of the bypasser. Pigs, cats, dogs snuggle in the filth while people go about their daily business in the presence of this growing menace, completely accustomed to its sight and stench. Residents agree that they cannot continue to live in filth, but do not know how to bring every resident on board the vision to make their community clean.
Men push on bola I'm babuana fan about me share what if you tell mammy me come I'm a bola me fan as I'm be a poor fan and bola to my 6 ama beer konika bachi ashu esana yoshka care you know I care I'm MPP very seriously yeah fun I go for the face slow to the saga and move on the choose my man
Sani eteshini beni rolling stele.
Freedom of everything.
Mrs. Anita Bill is a fishmonger in Choko. She explains that although some residents do their best to clean their environment and avoid indiscriminate pollution, many more residents litter with impunity because there is no consequence to littering. Some residents have a solution. They want the government to arrest polluters to serve as a deterrent to the larger population. But there is another problem here. Waste containers are not emptied as often as they should, so filth always overflows. Just along the Chamwena are these waste containers, but residents say they are not permitted to dump rubbish into them.
I'm founded by me, the government. She called back a J or no. She made my nominee. I like America back half year. I won't bend to Kubium. Nekem bend to Kubium. About will come about William back in ya, back in ya. She caught the BNF, owner come put a back machine. I can machine. Kaka come machine. Like oh, Chibola show pay 50% or happy.
Can power. I guess sanitation one day. Must force a community. Mofia money your community a one as a community. Mofia money of your nukebola eshia. Oba boshia and oba force. Ke ofe. Aba invite boke assembly. Kuna sama buka ke witi court.
Oh, come aba find book. Ke afe me enyo me ten ambakpa.
The absence of waste containers spells out liberty to residents who dump refuse wherever they please. The resulting filth has become characteristics of their home, and so they go about their duties in total oblivion of the ticking time bomb they are sitting on. So can governments lead and ensure Accra becomes the cleanest city in Africa by at least 2024? Or will some stubborn residents be left to pollute without any repercussions?
The sanitation minister, I will rate her, let's say, 5 out of the 10, because for her it's like she's been forced to carry a drum of hot water that nobody is willing to help lift and put on the ground.
Will Accra ever be free of the suffocating grasp of filth? JoyNews tracker.
And you're welcome back to The Pulse. Now, effective January next year, the National Teaching Council will begin the enforcement of the law on teacher licensing in the country. This means that all teachers in public schools and private schools actually have up till December 31st to possess a license before they can teach in any school here in the country. There are very severe consequences for teaching without the license. Today, the council is beginning the issuance of the licenses to teachers who have already taken and passed the licensure examination. So exactly how is this going to work out? And joining us here this afternoon are some of the officers at the front line implementing the policy. We'll be speaking to Francis Adai, who's the Director in terms of licensing and registration for the National Teaching Council. James Senano is one of the field supervisors, works with the ABE Consult, and Dennis Osei Owusu's PRO for the NTC. It's good to start off with you, Dennis, because obviously since you are here, we'll start it off then. What brought about this whole idea of issuing licenses to teachers?
All right. Thank you, my brother, for this opportunity. The Education Regulatory Bodies Act mandates NTC to professionalize teaching in Ghana. And then as part of our mandate, every teacher in the country, just like, as I said, the Education Regulatory Bodies Act 2020, Act 1023, stipulates it directly that under no circumstance should anybody go to a Ghanaian classroom without a license. But it's a new policy, and we need to start from somewhere and then end somewhere. So the law itself is what we are enforcing now. And so it gives us the chance to license teachers already in the system, where we call them in-service teachers. So the whole of latter part of last year and this year, we were going around the country issuing license to the teachers already in the system.
Do we know the total number you're targeting as part of the exercise?
Yeah, as we speak, we've issued license to almost 300,000 teachers already. But then the second phase, we are looking at giving license to almost 200,000 teachers.
So that's what you're targeting?
That's what we're targeting.
What's happening today as we speak? What specific exercise is happening today?
All right, next week, that is Monday, we are starting the nationwide mop-up. You know, we had the whole Ghana. So in the course of our work, we got to know that some were making mistakes here and there, so they couldn't get their numbers. Others, due to transfers and other stuff, they couldn't get their license at the exact place. I mean, when I talk about the license, I'm talking about the biometric card. Yes, you know, after issuing them with a number, we go to the field and pick their biodata. And so when we pick that, then we issue them with a card. So most teachers were able to have it. So that is why we are back again, going to embark.
Okay, and that's why I want to bring in Mr. Adai, because obviously through the implementation process, you have reflected, you have looked at some of the highs and lows. What do you have to say about the status of implementation of this teacher licensing regime?
My brother, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. This licensing regime has been successfully carried out throughout the whole nation. We started in June 2021 from the Greater Accra, moved to Central Region, Western, North, Ashanti, B, and then to Upper West, and the last region was the Eastern region. This year, in August 28, we finished all the regions. So as my brother Dennis was saying, some teachers could not get their licenses because of their inability to complete the registration, or due to ill health, or due to transfers. So we want to embark on a mop-up exercise. In fact, we covered more than 90% of the teachers. Only few are left in the system, and then including those who were recruited in 2021-22 academic year. Some have been recruited recently since up to September this year. They have not been issued the license, even though they passed the licensure examination. They have the provisional license, which will last for 1 year. They need to be given the full license. So this mop-up is going to take care of all those teachers who have been newly recruited, in addition to those who couldn't get a license during the nationwide exercise.
What timelines are you working with?
Oh, we are starting on Monday, 8th November, and we hope that by middle of December, we are done with the mop-up exercise. We are going to spend maybe 4 or 3 days in the region, so that all those who couldn't get a license will come to the regional center. In fact, we have the plan where the plan has been sent to all the districts and the regions, so they know where they will be to converge for their license. So we hope that within 1 month, this exercise can be carried out.
Okay, and James, for you, you've been on the field, obviously accessing what has been taking place. What's your impression of the exercise so far? James? James, I'm sorry. James, you'd have to unmute so we can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, the exercise has been fruitful and has been impressive. I think we've met our target. The last part, or the last leg that we are doing, is actually an opportunity to all our teachers who couldn't partake during our first round. So in fact, this is a limited opportunity. So any teacher who misses it means that he or she would have to travel to the national capital for their license. So, so far, yeah, it's been good. Like earlier said, we reached about 300,000 teachers. And this phase, we are looking about 30 to 40,000 teachers who were not served in our first round of the exercise. So again, is a plea, a humble plea to our teachers across the country to partake. So there is opportunity online. Registration is done online. The teacher is self-registration. So you go to NCC teacher portal. All the requirements are there. You fill the form. Then our officers, our back office, will attend to you. But if you have any peculiar circumstance that you are unable to register, you can still walk to the various centers so allocated to the various regions. When you come there, our officers will assist you to complete your registration. We know network is a challenge in some of our rural districts. So some teachers could not complete their registration. So they should just come to the center. We'll assist them with a stable internet to complete their registration, and they will have the benefit of being licensed as professional teachers.
Okay, and that's where, of course, I want to bring in Dennis, because Dennis will help us with some of the concerns that we received in recent times. A group of teachers in the news recently claiming that they've not been issued with their pins or whatever it is for them to take the process. Have you taken notice of this, and how are you resolving them?
Yeah, we have taken notice of all the concerns raised so far. I think most of the reasons why some of them didn't receive their number had to do with some of them refusing to upload their first professional certificate. When we talk about the first professional certificate, it's about the first certificate that made you a teacher. Mm-hmm. So most of them will upload their master's program, and that will not match with the dates on your registered number. Right. So we need to get the first appointment letter to authenticate the year you actually completed your school. And then some of them too are in-service teachers, but they don't have the professional certificate. Mm-hmm. So they upload any other academic certificate and they still think that you can be given the number. But we are working with a process. For you to be called a professional teacher, we assume that you've gone through the mill to read education. And there's a situation where some of them have not read education, but you're already in the system. So we still have chance for them to upgrade so that they can go through the process and then get their license. So in this case, you could see that most of them are not getting their numbers because of the mistakes they are doing in the uploading. And one aspect too is in our uploading, when you're able to finish everything, you see 100% there. But the 100% can be there, but if you don't see pending for activation, meaning all your uploads were not saved. When you upload, you need to save before you move to next. Most of them upload and then just go to next. So by the time you finish, you get an indication that you've had 100%. But below, you see what is wrong. Mm. They don't check it. Immediately they see 100%, they think they are through. But if we see that on our system, we don't see 100%. We only see you at registered, meaning we cannot review your documents and give you the number. Mm-hmm. We can only see you in review when you have successfully uploaded everything and saved. So that is what is actually denying most of them.
Are you planning on deploying some of your officials to assist in the registration process?
Sure. Anywhere we go to do the issuance, we have a team who are also on the ground. So those with those challenges move there and then they walk them through the process. Some even have to do the upload and everything for them so that we generate a number for them.
Okay, let's talk about the potential impact on the education sector itself. Sogah, if you're with us, are we looking at some concrete impact on improving teaching and learning outcomes?
My brother, yes, of course, because if you talk about quality education, then it means that the teachers must also be qualified, know what they're supposed to deliver. So we want to get qualified teachers in the classrooms to manage our children. And this is one of the processes to ensure that to enforce teacher professionalism, getting qualified, getting trained as a teacher, that's the first point, and then getting the license. That makes you a qualified and a professional teacher so that you'll be capable of delivering the appropriate lessons at the appropriate time. And then, because the teachers, we are role models. We change lives. So if you don't know what it takes, so if you don't have what it takes to change lives, then something is lacking. So we know that with the licensing regime being implemented, they're going to have most qualified teachers in the classrooms. Our next leg is that those who are not qualified and are teaching, we are going to give them short training, issue them with emergency certificates, and then they must be enrolled in a teacher education program. So we've started a pilot program in Greater Accra. By the beginning of December, we are going to start Greater Accra training of the non-professional teachers. Give them emergency certificates so that they will also be enrolled on a teacher education program, because we want all teachers in the classrooms to be qualified and professionals. And we know that this will by all means change the outcomes in the learning and then the teaching processes.
And James, I mean, you've been on the field as well, interacting with these teachers. What's their personal impression about what's taking place in terms of how the licensing regime could help improve on the quality of education across the country? James, you'd have to unmute so we can hear you.
Yes, the teachers were positive. They were very happy with the process. In fact, all other professionals in the country are licensed. So they usually cite the example of nurses who, after their training, they are licensed, and they don't have one. So this has come at an opportune time for them. Yes, so they embrace this, the process, and it's giving them that kind of confidence. And so most of the teachers were non-professionals. We didn't talk about the categories of teachers that are involved, but I think the concentration is on professionals. But we know that in the system, there are a lot of teachers who graduated with degrees who are not non-professionals. So because of this exercise, most of them are going back to do their post-diploma certificate in education, just that they are qualified to be licensed, which will give them the edge, and they can confidently say, I am a professional teacher. So yes, the teachers have embraced the exercise wholeheartedly.
Beyond licensing, is there something that we need to consider as an add-on, perhaps, to complement the process that is currently underway?
Beyond the licensing, I think it is the continual education. Now, the license is renewable after 3 years. And within that waiting period, the teacher is to undertake upgrade or in-house or in-service training, and which is on the NTC platform. So from time to time, there are licensed service providers who go out to train teachers to up their skill in the teaching profession. So that is an add-on. So if you are not a licensed teacher, you cannot participate to upgrade yourself to meet the current need or standard of the 21st century teacher. So that is a great add-on. They are all tech platforms that some are enrolled online. The teachers go there. They are taken through ICT education, the technology to apply. So that is an add-on beyond the licensing.
And Dennis is right here with us. Dennis, we need to wrap up, but I want us to look at the way forward and what the plan is for teachers who haven't registered and what else you plan to do to roaming more and more. I'm not sure it's a free-for-all thing, but of course you're trying to make it as accessible as possible to every teacher that applies for the process.
All right. I think what we need to encourage now is teachers who haven't registered on the portal are to go and register.
Right.
And then teachers who have already secured their numbers but don't have their license card should get to our portals, all our social media platforms. We've also shared with the district directors and then their DTOs. So the timetable for our movement plan and everything is already out. So they should just look forward for our coming and then get on board so that we can all be on the same page. And again, just like you asked, the whole licensing process, it's not, the whole teacher professionalism process is not just limited to license. We introduced licensing and we are talking about what impact does it have on the teacher. Through the licensing, we have been able to introduce continuous professional development of the teacher, which is now a mandate. It is a mandatory something for you, the teacher, to go through that in order to accrue points and renew your license. Right. Initially, we were doing a lot of things in school, but we don't keep records of them. So now the process gives you the opportunity to build your portfolio and then upload them on our system where points will be allotted to. Then after that, we accrue all of them, then use
also there's even some sort of a reward to the teachers involved.
Through that point, you renew your license automatically, where you don't have to go through any process of, let's say, writing another exam or going for interview or whatever. No.
So the assessment sort of continues.
Things you are doing in the school, the training you are having to boost your existing knowledge as far as the classroom or the learning environment is concerned. Everything that you need to know to help you develop on the work, you can go bring evidence to that. We give you points to it.
Okay.
And you are good to go.
And so finally, I'm just interested in this, Mr. Dai. What happens to a teacher who doesn't possess the license and then we still have them in the classrooms by next year?
We have given them some time, maybe 3 years, for them to get themselves licensed, if they are not professionals. Those who are professionals are supposed to get a license as quickly as possible. But those who are not professionals and are still in the system, we're giving them up to 2024 to get themselves qualified, as they will be kicked out from the classrooms. So we are pleading with all teachers who are not qualified, who are in the system, either in the private or in the public schools, to get enrolled in any teacher education program and get qualified as a teacher, get your licensure examination, get your license, and then become a full teacher.
Okay, so what's accounting for this 2-year or 3-year grace period? What's accounting for it?
Well, because now we have the education system that we have in our colleges and universities is that now the colleges used to run a 3-year diploma program, but now it is 4 years. So if somebody is embarking on a 3-year program, it's a diploma program is 3 years. And consequently, we are going to face out a 3-year program, and then 4 years will start. So that's why we are giving them up to 2024. Yeah. Because if you start now, it will take you maybe 3 years or 4 years to complete.
Okay, I'll give the final word to James, and we'll wrap up with Dennis here. James?
Thank you. Yeah, so that, like earlier stated, the timetable has been sent out. This is for only a month, and so it's very limited. Some teacher will say, I'm from Volta, but I'm currently in Kumasi. By the time we get to Volta, I may go back to just be where you are. Wherever you are, you can still be licensed. It is not restricted. Once you are a qualified teacher, you register on the portal, whichever region you are during this 1 month period, you will still have the opportunity to visit any regional capital where the licensing, the limited licensing or the mop-up is taking place to take your license. And so I think I have to be clear on that. Yeah, it is region-based. So every teacher is to register at a region and at a district, which is on the portal. So the national one that we did, you are to register you in your district. But the mop-up, because of the peculiarity of it and the limitation, if you are from Kumasi, but you are currently in Volta, maybe undertaking a course or a training, you can still walk into the Volta regional capital and take your license as a teacher.
Okay, then.
Thank
James.
you.
Yeah, thank you, James. And for you, Dennis.
All right, so just like James said, we are not looking at restricting them to a district like before. For now, because it's a mop-up and the number of people we are looking at, you can do it at any regional capital. And so we are begging all the teachers, we are just pleading with them. This time we won't come to their circuit as we did earlier. So we are now dealing with the regional capitals. And on Monday, which is on the 7th, we are starting with Western North. And it's just a day and then a half event. So if you wait and say, I'll move there at my ample time, you might be at disadvantage.
Are there some phone lines for them to reach out?
Sure, we have all our official lines.
Right.
You can communicate with us on all our social media platforms, and we will be there to assist you.
All right. And thank you, Dennis, for joining us, and to the rest of the team out there from the National Teaching Council. It's time now to take you elsewhere to the Ashanti region because in the capital, Kumasi, I understand that scores of people are on the lookout for some passport booklets. Of course, they're stranded as the passport office is still unable to issue applicants with their passports. The situation has persisted for months over what the Foreign Affairs Ministry says is due to the shortage of the booklets. But despite assurances to resolve the backlog of applications, some applicants in the Ashanti region continue to wait in queues at the passport offices without hope of receiving their passports. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright Kweku has been there and comes through with this report.
It's been 3 months now since Kabla, not his real name, began the application process to secure a passport from the passport office in Kumasi for his wife. Having undergone all required stages and made due payments to the office, collection of his wife's passport booklet is now daunting and a nightmare. He was rescheduled to receive the passport booklet weeks ago, only to be told on the slated date to come back 2 months later for unknown reasons.
She's using it for an application outside the country. My brother-in-law has been able to secure an application for her with a certain nursing home care agency in the UK. And the agency is just waiting for her to bring the passport number so that they can conclude the certificate of sponsorship that they are preparing for her. Because so that she can leave the system. My wife used to be a health worker, but she was never able to be employed by the government. And now opportunity of this has come, and as a citizen, she just needs a passport to live. And you are telling me to be going up and down. What is the meaning of this? I asked the gentleman that I'm in to collect the passport on behalf of my wife, because that's the collection date. And then I was just to leave and come in 2 months' time. And I was asking, in 2 months' time, which exactly day? Should it be a Monday, a Tuesday, maybe in December or in November? The officer was not even ready even to look at my face. Just, gentlemen, just leave and go and come in 2 months' time. But we are reliably informed that people have been there within this same kind of system. They've been there on several occasions. Yes, so they don't get a passport.
Kabla says the delays could hamper his wife's opportunity to travel overseas.
Like I did say, the opportunity is time-bound. So if the agency waits for the number and they don't get the number, maybe my wife might lose the opportunity. And she has to wait, and we have to struggle again and get the opportunity elsewhere again. It's not easy.
So would it in a way affect your livelihood?
Yeah, my wife is currently supporting me. And I think with this opportunity, and when she's able to live, I think we've done the cost-benefit analysis. It will really help a lot. It will really help a lot.
To ascertain the situation, I visited the office where I met Kofi, also not his real name. Kofi has been chasing the booklet for nearly 9 months now. Unlike Kabla, whose wife needs the booklet urgently, Kofi wants his for future use.
I came here around 13th of January, and they told me to come around 4th or 5th of February, but I chose not to come on that day. I came somewhere in May, and they said I should go and come back. So I came back in June again. So the June, they said this isn't ready. So I came back again in August, and they said 1 month, 2 weeks later, then here I am. You might not know when the passport will be needed as things going on in the country. Okay. So if it is with you, it's fine. But for now, I don't need it urgently, but I don't know what tomorrow holds. Yeah.
Kabla alludes to cases of some friends paying unapproved amounts of money to middlemen to expedite processes to receive their booklets, but he is not ready to do same.
I'd wanted even to use my friend as an example. I'd wanted to use his situation that I will come together with him. The one I spoke of in the office that he wants to come and pay 1,000, somebody is willing, so that I come and see how that kind of situation. People are doing it, and right now if you go there, they will tell you that leave. They are not issuing any passport, but you will see people collecting their passport and they are coming out secretly. When you ask them, they are unwilling to speak. But meanwhile, if you should ask them when they did the application, the day they came for the biometrics, you realize that you have even done yours far, way before they did theirs. But they are receiving their passports. What is actually happening? And that's what is currently going on in the system.
Kabla and Kofi's situation mirrors that of many Ghanaians seeking a passport. Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Shirley Ayakoboche, in early October assured of resolving the backlog of passport applications stemming mainly from shortage of booklets.
As we speak, we have booklets in stock, but the booklets that we have in stock are less than the demand, that the backlog that we have. Fortunately, we will receive booklets around the 13th of this month, way more than what the numbers that we have in the system that we haven't issued. And then at the end of the month also we'll have another 150,000. So we're expecting over 300,000 this month.
Weeks after the assurance, some passport seekers like Kofi and Kabla still wait in queues at passport offices in hope of receiving their booklets. For Kabla, he wants answers for the delay.
Are you willing to pay these middlemen?
No. For me, one thing I don't like in my life is to pay bribe. I always tell my wife that if it's unfortunate she's not around, but if she were to be here, she would tell you, I am the kind of people, I don't tolerate those things at all. So I know
for JoyNews, Emmanuel Kweku reporting.
Okay, let's take you now to the Central Region. Drivers in the Commander Edina Guafo Ibrahim municipality of the Central Region Wednesday suspended activities in protest of the increment in fuel prices. Now, according to the drivers, their operational cost has increased as a result of the fuel prices and failure until the Ghana Private Road Transport Union increases the fares. They won't actually move their cars until something is done about the new prices. There's more in the following report.
It's early Wednesday morning, and some drivers in the Commander Edna Guafo Ibrahim municipality won't simply move their vehicles. They have been protesting against the fuel price hikes. The protest left many passengers stranded. They couldn't get vehicles to their various destinations. The drivers say they are running at a loss and they can't incur more losses.
48 cities. The baby load of petrol 1 gallon, nay at the way at the back. Let's say petrol 1 gallon, or 1 city, 82 city, into the 2 city. Say load of quart, nay about, 40.
We spent 1 gallon of fuel, that's now 82 Ghana cedis, on a journey that cost us 82 Ghana cedis. We can't use 1 gallon of fuel on this journey, and that's why we want the GPRTU to help increase the fare for us.
Now, what to fare no more there now? What am I here?
The fare to Aguna will not help us in any way. We incur a huge cost on such a journey. We don't get our fuel money back if we move the car from Aguna and back. If we don't increase the fare, we will continue incurring losses. The reason why we are not going to work is that we don't want to charge the fares without approval. The reason why we are not working is that the price of petrol is really high. When you buy it, you are unable to break even.
In 11 kilometers. If you have a kilometer, you can. And you want to summer and crowd, but you the Michigan. And you pay the Michigan, but I'm a Yata, I'm coming
We want to increase our fares. We want to charge 10 Ghana cedis from Atabazi Junction to Aguna, and from Aguna to Edna, and from Aguna to Edna, we want to charge 15 Ghana cedis. That's why we are demonstrating.
But I understand what to one lorry frame ride from 6 cities to 7 cities. Then we play what to you. That's why you understand what to. I'm telling you, no petrol, I'm 65. It's the fact one lorry frame man, you do. I make 2% me, you do. If this is here, I check this year. I say what to petrol. I check your 81. If you make one, you do your father make 81 petrol in 2 for you. That's what I'm
The drivers want the Ghana Private Road Transport Union to increase the fares to alleviate them from their suffering. The Ghana Police Service intervened to ensure order.
An ALCO principal investigator of University of York Galamsey research team, Professor Gladys Nyako, is calling on the government to fund the National Commission on Civic Education to educate citizens to fight the menace of illegal mining. Speaking at a roundtable discussion themed Galamsey drivers, cost and possible solutions organized by think tank Progress Ghana, she emphasized that sending soldiers to mining areas cannot solve the problem and that government should treat the menace as a national concern devoid of politics.
Over the past few months, illegal mining, popularly termed galamsey, has generated headlines. Galamsey has resulted in massive environmental damage, with rivers polluted and forests torn down. At the roundtable discussion, the panelists emphasized the need for government to support the NCCE to educate citizens in areas where galamsey takes place as a measure to curb the menace. According to Professor Gladys Nyako, co-principal investigator, the money that the government uses in funding military personnel should rather be channeled to the NCCE in order to conduct educative activities that will enlighten citizens in illegal mining areas.
National education. NCCE is sitting in the district doing nothing. The money we give to the military to go and guard empty forests during the day and go to sleep in the night because we can't keep them there throughout. Give part of that money to NCCE to go around in the communities. Civic education. If there is any war we need to fight, it is civic education. It is important.
She further explained that for government to be able to effectively solve the problem, the discourse of galamsey should change from war to collaboration and be devoid of any partisan politics.
So let us change our language from fighting and from war to collaboration, because we may not be able to deal with the war casualties. Take politics out of it. If we want to deal with this, take politics out. Because if government is looking at political parties, then nothing will get done. So if it is a national emergency, it is a national issue, we are all involved.
Another panelist at the discussion, Dr. Yao Graham, who is the coordinator for the Third World Network Africa, added that the production of additional gold is not worth it. It is only profitable for firms that invest in gold.
Meanwhile, the Christian Council of Ghana is demanding an immediate presidential ban on small-scale mining, despite its contribution to the economy and how it helps to grow the country. The council says a recent tour of some of the illegal mining sites in the eastern region reveals some people are mining in their rooms. That's a courtesy call on the President Akufo-Addo at Jubilee House. Chairperson of the council, Reverend Professor Joseph Obriye-Boamante, says the country must ensure that they take a firm stance against the menace to save future generations.
People have their homes built in such a way that in one of their rooms, you take a ladder and go down in the house. Yes, the Honorable Minister explained to us that small-scale mining actually brings a lot of money into our GDP, and we are grateful to God for that. But the fact of the matter is that now we cannot tell whether those who are doing illegally have turned out to be illegal. We don't even know which one is galamsey and so on and so forth. We are just wondering whether it will be possible to put a ban on all small-scale mining just for a period, just to make a statement. We know, we get money, but at what cost?
And thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. We'll be back shortly. And you're welcome back. Communities situated downstream of the highly polluted Ofinso and Para rivers are paying dearly for activities of illegal mining. The main water sources of residents in the areas of Beposo, Dunkwa, and also some communities among the Shama districts of the western region have been destroyed by illegal miners who have pitched camps upstream in parts of that western region. There's more in the following report.
My trip took me to Atrebuana, a farming community situated downstream of the main Pra River in the Shama district of the western region. The mainstay of residents here is crop and vegetable production, fishing and basket weaving. Residents depend on the Pra River for their livelihood as they use water from the stream for household chores, including bathing, irrigating crops and fishing activities. Like Beposo, Supom Dunkwao and Bokokope, the community, with a population of about 1,000 residents, is feeling the negative impact of illegal mining activities.
The river has been polluted and its color turned milky.
The Ofin River is a major tributary of the main Pra River, which enters the Gulf of Guinea in nearby Shama in the western region. At 6 a.m., children, some as young as 2 years, are seen taking their bath in this stream before school. One of them is Andrews Tachi, a JHS 2 student. As a practice, he and other children in this community take their shower in the stream every morning. This has become a routine for Andrews and many children in this community.
When we wake up, this water that day we come and bath. We don't have water, that's why we came here and bath.
As a first-time visitor, I wondered why these kids would use dirty brownish water from the much polluted Pra River to wash down. It is obvious turbidity in the water is extremely high, above the Environmental Protection Agency's recommended limit. It is common to see Pra and other river bodies affected by illegal mining, where harmful chemicals such as mercury are used in this state.
Residents in communities along the River Pra, such as this community, Beposo, Atrebuana, and others, say they have been impacted negatively by the activities of illegal miners. River Pra is highly polluted.
Though Talo Ghana in 2016 commissioned a mechanized water project to supply residents of Atrebuana with clean drinking water, residents can no longer get wholesome water for their household needs due to equipment breakdown. They say the problem has persisted for several years. Assemblyman for New Junction Amisa Krombo Kokope electoral area, Alpha Justice Wonche laments the situation.
Yes, this is the only source of water. From, let's say, 1.5 years, 2 years, they all bath at this point. Early in the morning, you see them, no matter how the weather, if it is even chilled weather or if it is hot weather, this same river that they bath in before going to school.
The practice is impacting negatively on health of residents, especially children. Authorities at the Community Health-Based Planning Services Chief Compound say residents are plagued with malaria, cough, and waterborne diseases such as scabies, diarrhea, and bilharziasis. The assistant headmaster of the local Atrebuana DA Primary AGHS, Kwasiapia, revealed school children have been asked not to bath in the stream because of dangers posed by chemicals used in galamsey operations.
We have been fetching this water, we have been drinking it all the time. When the galamsey started the galamsey work, we stopped. We have stopped the children from taking their bath at the riverside because there are some chemicals that galamsey people use, which is affecting them. In fact, it gives them some diseases. If you could observe, plenty of the children have some scars in their hair. It is through this river that they have been taking their bath in.
Unfortunately, that directive is yet to be adhered to by Andrews and several other children who have no alternative water source. The assemblyman, Mr. Wonche, is not only passionate about the situation, but also concerned with the negative impact of illegal mining activities on communities downstream.
It is very heartbreaking. It is very, very, very heartbreaking because there is a saying in Akan proverb, we are not happy with the activities of this galamsey up there, and we are suffering from the consequences of it. We are urging the president and then the MPP government to in fact fast-track things in order to prevent those people in these water bodies.
The challenges of affected communities such as Atrebuana are compounded by flooding. Residents here blame illegal mining operations upstream that have either blocked the waterways or changed the course of the stream. One of the areas affected by the flood is a football pitch, which serves as the main training ground for the under 13 and 17 teams in the community. The community until now has been nurturing talents to feed Azakis and other teams.
Behind me is a football pitch. This until now serves as home of a football club born and bred in this community called Pra Babies.
The flood means players cannot practice here. One of them is Emra Abebio Jr.
Upon school, ne abene ababe train. Udu Sundays, ne your coach abene. Yakwakobo match. That time, tell the man into me and bobble. Tell me and bobble, udu match ne yakwa. Yabosa into me, yambo. Children soon train and son you to me.
This is the only source of recreation center we have in our community here. But look at the activities of the galamsey that has caused the water to overflow its banks to this level.
Former acting district physical education coordinator for Shamar district, Kwasiapia, says this is affecting the nurturing of players in the community.
It's going to affect them, because we train on the fit.
The impact is directly.
Dr. Anthony Osei-Chumesi is an environmental engineer and a senior lecturer at the Kumasi Technical University. He has published extensively in several international journals on water resource management in Ghana. He warned communities downstreams affected by galamsey face dire consequences of flooding, water shortage, among others.
The moment you create those pits, you change the course of flow of river in those areas. Now, you have put some impediments, for example, you put embankments. So it means that all those areas which those embankments are, you are creating artificial flooding. The impact is directly. It's not that maybe because they don't live around the area. They will have these flooding effects.
Residents of Atrebuana, Bokokope, Supom Dungwao and Beposo are banking their homes on President Akufo-Addo to help change their narrative by putting a stop to illegal mining operations.
If the president and then the MPP government tighten up situations in order to prevent those corrupt people who have been corrupting our environment, who have been causing harm to the water bodies, for us, we will be very happy.
Until government reacts positively, residents can only hope. From Accra in the Shama district of the Western region for JoyNews, my name is Ohimi Nteria.
And the state of roads in the Atibu-Amanting municipality has been a nightmare for the residents as the area records more horrific fatal road accidents. The bad state of the 32-kilometer Atibu-Senso road has cut off 5 communities such as the Senso, we have Vatro, Mim, and some other areas in the community. The residents have complained that the road has become almost more terrible due to some of the dangers on the road. JoyNews' Bono East Regional Correspondent Christian Ofori-Kuma has been following up on that in our report.
The chiefs and residents of the 5 communities poured their frustrations over the delayed rehabilitation of the 32-kilometer road. JoyNews' Bono East Regional Correspondent Christian Ofori-Kuma's visit to the area revealed that the road is bumpy, dusty and riddled with potholes, while erosion has eaten large portions of it, rendering it difficult and dangerous to travel on. Evelyn Efa, a 20-year-old lady, is a victim of an accident on the road. She lost her arm as a result of an accident she suffered while traveling with her mother on the Atebu-Busenaso road when she was in class 6.
I'm the mommy to Quanco at the baby. You do a man flow somewhere on a kind of TV, Namasanaco on no buoy. I'm the Muko Kumasijin, Namuko Chas. You probably play. Namanquade, Mansana buoy, no Muko Tram and Son. No, the Mebasi. Bazi or Kazi, Dr. Niba, come measure me. Doctor into quine into Antimamba. Mensa intimate me, there be a Menquapo, there be a mammy quapo, no jam one. Namanquamity fear, and I'm dear Intimindia Johnny Bia, Timisrama, Mumbai. Nadru classes here and I'm applying. I'm a to us be. Nan person me listening. Nan Nania Juma managing Hopa, Miko school in a Juma managing Hopa and Clumasi, Dr. Nibia near Sainty. The nan person Miko school. Now we understand Namitim Shekluma for in a Bia Yalibia, Oklumasi, and Pessimism Shanpa, no Nya hoarding. Pop, I'm now a boss star, Matrano, come up. The Bia Mantimian Kobe Bianamity store, Nano, Etoniama.
According to the resident, the road has also become a prime area for armed robbers. Nana Kwame Owusu is the spokesperson for the 4 communities.
Udi ya okese pa ya umu wa ya wadwendwene ekese da bia nsuo kra to anase nsuo ya ntokra na orofa so na so fa yedre so obi yare na orope kwan obefa so de na duru ayaresabia eya Atebu municipal hospital no kre na wa ye ade a ye dini yiye pa be de kwan ma contractor for miensa be ba ya na mo papa bia se yetu ma contractor for be ni gibia yetu ye odura brebia na adwumaye baba ye gotes emaye brebia ni bebe hia bia ba ha okese abedetu ye nim se adwumaye ba ye fa bia senka aban emma besika ba bona bensan keska enti ni ade to aba 2020 ewie no krese na nanu so yetna ho na ne yemanfo ba ye sika oboto mrebi yenso ye ba hwere yenkwa aya kwan yi so ha ye ti ku adwuma ne ye sesempo ka akranti mi mfa kwan so senya bobo ya ene prage a yehunu kwan kro obi kodwa obefa so obetimi aba na ohia bibia Atebu a obetimi akọ nuano dodo okura ba Atebu fo dodo anya meka say about 60% there meka say ofiri ye kwan so enso isaben yenka kwan bone Atebu amanti municipality a ye beka say ye kwan ye nya first ye benya second.
For his part, the assemblyman for Mim electoral area, Andrews Nemakohene, said he has reported the state of the road to the municipal assembly several times, but all his efforts proved futile.
Anamo ya tu ya ho de se mekase meka na hase ya ano ye dene pa menya hu assembly sitting bia yakwa be minute mu onkoba se ye kan atebu mem road watro road ho asem da bia enda ne asem aye pem so na saa kwani se de otinti wa ma how kese pa ne aba ye nso pa first nanka ye kwani yesu bibia ni ho a am robbers eba so because a very short distance as obi of us was sia nanka waduru ba ye say oboba se 5 o'clock kra wona nkwane so a oyehu said ye homfa so ehun se ne kwane nte nsuo timi je kwane he ka ntimi nko emma ni nyina ya tu ho anamo menso still wo ye fomu ade bi a this a fomu da no aye de ben waton no enti bi won kra otimi sei wontimi fa nkodwom enkonkoton ema ne nyeye enti wa ma ho kire kese pa ne aba atebu wa truck anyino ofise ne so area ase nyina etimi de IGF etimi ye no ma bebre assembly a yentimi enya emwa nenso entimi mwa ye wo said ye abayo yi anya accident e yakwani so ene yentimi fa yemfudie no mtimi mba he e be srese abane betimi ahwe na watimi aboa ya ma bibia na atimi.
And that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I'm Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. There's updates on our stories there for you.